What's up guys? Today we've got another unboxing for you. I've got one of my favorite types of speakers, another pair of electrostats. This one is the Martin Logan Expression 13A. This particular model comes with ARC room correction built into it.
Anthem Room Correction, or ARC, is a software that was developed by our engineers here at Anthem.
But first, let's get these unboxed and take a quick look. The speaker weighs 103 pounds each. So if you are going to get it into your apartment or your house, make sure you have a helping hand because it's bottom heavy. And it'll say open the other end, so we're just gonna open up this end. And I'm just gonna go ahead and just pull it out the back. All right, so I'm just gonna have to remove the little foamy protective pieces here. So we have the power cord. There are some spiked feet if you wanna spike it to your carpet. Then we have a nice big manual, owner's manual. Hallelujah. There it is. This sucker is about 61.5 inches tall, so it's almost my height. I'm like yeah, I'm like 5'8". And then depth-wise, we're looking at 27 inches deep. And this particular model is the walnut finish. So it's got a nice walnut veneer here, like real walnut veneer. And if you look at the front, so the whole front panel is the stat panel. And then I'm gonna just tilt this backwards. And you can see there is a powered 10-inch woofer right there. And then if we spin it around, there's also another 10-inch powered woofer right here. So it's 2 by 300 watts each. So 600 watts peak. So if you take a look at the back here, there is ARC room correction that's built in, although the microphone kit is you're gonna have to pick that up separately. There is ARC bass EQ, little toggle for that. There's your binding posts. This is the mid bass. What is this? This is mid bass level dB. I think it's like a little attenuator. There is +2, 0, and then -2. And then here you have the bass level, the bass volume control. Then you have your light. There's a little LED light on the bottom here. There's a little switch for that, so it's like dim, off, and then on. And then your power input right there. This pair, if you're gonna buy the pair, the 13As, they are about $15,000 for the pair. Much larger stat panel. It's got about a 30-degree dispersion on it. We're going to put this up against these guys. So I want to get these in here so we can see if there's like a big sound difference, audible difference between the Bowers & Wilkins 803s, which I've been using for the past couple months, and then against my favorite type of speakers, the electrostats. For setup, we'll be using a Krell Illusion 2 and Duo preamp amp combo. We ended up streaming Tidal through a Technics SL-G700 SACD network player, and everything was plugged into a Furman Reference 15i power conditioner. All the interconnects and speaker cables are from AudioQuest. Alright, so for sound quality wise, we tested out a few different songs. First song being Lenny Kravitz.
Lenny Kravitz.
It ain't over till it's over.
Ain't over till it's over, right?
How did you feel? First off, we compared this to another pair of speakers that were comparable in price, which were the B&W 803D3s, which were $18,000. These ones are about $15,000. So as like a sound comparison wise, how would you say the Martin Logan 13As stacked up?
I don't want to say this, man. I'm a B&W fan from way back. I love the D3s. The Martin Logan smoke them. I mean, when we played that Lenny Kravitz song,
Yeah.
you were hearing a soundstage like I've never heard from speakers before. I mean, the keyboards, put it this way, I started sitting down and I stood up to make sure that the keyboards stayed in the same place.
Yeah.
They were right there, man. The keyboards were like at the ceiling level. It was the biggest soundstage I've ever heard. Crazy.
Yeah, it's like almost three-dimensional sounding. It's like almost kind of like having headphones on.
Yeah, yeah.
I think the minute that we hit play, by the way, we were using Tidal the first time we hit play was like we're hearing like the keyboards. They were like over here, almost like we had side surrounds, almost like a surround
I
sound.
sat
like an
down.
Atmos.
He's like, "Are you ready?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm ready." He turns around. I looked at him like, "What?" I mean, you instantly can tell the difference. It's not like something like you're waiting to hear incremental differences between these two really nice speakers. The Bowers are fantastic. They sound great. But these things, it's like you listen to a concert. I mean, it's crazy how wide the soundstage is, how just big.
I think I had mentioned this in my first review when I had the ESLs. Remember the smaller ESLs that I had?
Yeah.
So those were the smaller ones. Those are $4,000. Those are a smaller panel, a couple feet shorter.
The XLs, right?
Yeah, the ESL X's. Yeah, those are $4,000. Those are like their affordable ESLs.
Yeah.
These are obviously their higher end ones, part of like their Master Series lineup, I think it's called.
The imaging was...
Imaging is crazy.
But I really like, these are the first time that I've heard such totally distinct location of particular instrumentation. It was, I literally had to do a double take. I listened to it 3 times.
All right, I know we started off with the Lenny Kravitz, but as you say that you can hear localization of instruments.
Yeah.
I wasn't really too enamored with that Rolling Stones songs that you first picked. What was it called?
You can't always get what you want.
So we first listened to that on the B&W, the 803s.
Your first comment was like, yeah, not impressed.
And it just kind of sounded like it was very front heavy. There are some things that I could definitely hear was Mick Jagger. He was kind of like not quite center. He was more like between the center and then between the left speaker and the center. He was like kind of there. So kudos to B&W for being able to recreate that. The pianist, which was on the right speaker.
Yep.
And then
You had
there was the drummer that was kind of behind
Charlie Watts
Mick.
is like, yeah, usually right
Kind
behind
of
him.
behind Mick, but I couldn't tell that the drummer was behind Mick Jagger with the 803s. The only thing I could really tell was that there was the guitarist on the right side, maybe the pianist on the left side. Mick Jagger was left of center between the left speaker and the center. I could tell that. But with the Martin Logans, very distinct that he was there at that specific spot. So there's elevation that I heard as well.
I heard,
Martin Logans.
yeah. I mean, I've listened to that song on different pairs of B&Ws many times, and this is probably the first time that I've actually heard literal elevation difference on the drum kit. It was amazing. But also, it sounded to me as though things were stacked up on center stage, and I've seen Mick a bunch of times. So it's like he's primarily on the left if he's not standing, if he's not running around. Keith Richards is on the right. Ronnie Wood playing all kinds of different stuff, slide guitar and different guitar, rhythm guitar on the right hand side. But then you also had for this particular song, if you ever heard it live, there's a chorus. The entry is a choral part. You could actually hear the elevation from the singers singing the choral backup to the actual verse. It was astounding. I've listened to that song a bazillion times. If you listen to any really good pair of speakers, you're going to hear, the guitar coming in from the right. You're going to hear the French horn on the left, French horn, flugelhorn. I don't know. I'm not a brass instrument player. I'm assuming it's a French horn. But that song is so well done in terms of mastering. But this is the first time that I've heard that level of separation and sound staging. These speakers do that song, I don't want to say justice, because justice doesn't really adequately describe what it does for him.
Well, as comparison to the B&Ws, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say a few feet behind the speakers is where we were hearing the drum set, and then Mick was a little bit forward. So, I mean, depth, like you said, definitely there with these speakers. I'm not going to say it wasn't there with the B&Ws. It definitely was there, but everything had its own specific place and space.
Yeah.
So it was a lot easier to differentiate where everything was.
Absolutely.
And then what was the other song?
That was Home by Dominique.
I just wanna be going home.
I remember when we were listening to the B&Ws, I was like, yo, can you hear the center image? Pretty good. And the first thing I saw Bill do was this. Yeah, I can hear it. Like you kneeled forward. But when I said it with the Martin Logans, you were just like, relax. You're like, yeah, it's right there.
Yeah.
Like it was pretty prominent. You could hear it. It's right in the center.
Now this might be different for your setup, but we found placing acoustic panels behind the speakers made imaging a whole lot better. We got a way better phantom center image.
It sounded it sounded great on the BMWs. I was hearing stuff on the Martin Logans I hadn't really heard before in terms of separation. There's a lot of little stuff doing fills and like you can on the BMWs you can hear the upright bass player, you can hear his fingers moving, right? With the Martin Logans, it's literally like he's in the room with you. The movement, the placement of his hands, like you can see his hands on that upright bass. It's crazy.
It's like the detail, man.
The sound detail is amazing in terms of just sonic placement.
You had asked me if I thought the treble, the high end,
Was as clean, as high and clean, right.
as the B&Ws. And I thought it was much cleaner. I always thought that the B&Ws were a little bit more relaxed, more laid back. But I've always thought that Martin Logans, especially the electrostats, much more airier sounding, much more detailed on the upper end. You could tell, like we were saying, so much more space and depth that you can hear because the high end was so crisp and clear. This guy's hearing, fingers on guitar,
upright bass and stuff. I'm hearing fingers on the string. You can hear him, everybody can hear the slap in the bass. That's part of the song is where he's slapping it.
Slap at the bass.
But you can also just hear him holding the neck of that upright bass. It's crazy.
And I've never been able to hear that with the Bowers and Wilkins. I'm not knocking it. Maybe, I don't know, maybe we need better amplifiers or something like that. Maybe we need a better system. But I mean, all things being equal, the only thing that we switched out were the speakers between the Bowers and the Martin Logans. And there was a drastic difference between the electrostats and, Bowers and Wilkins, which are like your standard speakers, tweeter mid-range.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I have a friend, our friend JB, and he's got the 803s, right? And he loves them, and they sound fantastic. Unfortunately, I never had a chance to compare them, song for song with these things. And I have to say that I am really surprised because I honestly did not think that the Martin Logan Electro, I love them. I love the ones I've heard before, but I honestly did not think that they could hold a candle to the B&Ws, and I am really surprised. It was crazy.
No,
it's
so
good.
So three-dimensional. That's all I'm saying. It's like so three-dimensional, so much more detail. I've never heard detail like this from any other speakers if it was not an electrostat.
No.
That's why they've always been my favorite.
Something else I want to say, because I have listened to electrostats before, but the ones I've listened to were more the entry level. And while they sound good, they are definitely, I want to say, the techs that I talked to hate when I use this word directional, but they are. Compared to some of the B&Ws, they just, you have to be in the right spot. These, I sat in 3 different spots in a room. Didn't matter where I was, man. These things cranked.
When you were sitting, no matter where you were in the room, it still sounded amazing sound. It still sounded good. I don't want to say it's as bad as the ASL Lexus were, where you kind of had to be dead center, and if you veered off from center, left, or right, the imaging kind of faltered a bit. There's a little bit more space because I think the panels are so much bigger, but there is a bigger sweet spot with these particular models over the ESL Lexus.
Definitely.
All right, so that's our thoughts on the Martin Logan 13As. Electrostatic speakers. I think they're amazing sounding. Probably one of the best sounding speakers I've ever heard, if not, I don't want to say the best, but one of the best.
I've heard some really expensive sounding speakers, and these things, man, they would go toe to toe. And for my money, they outshine the B&W D3s.
And they're about $3,000 cheaper. So if you guys have heard these speakers, then let us know down in the comments. What are your thoughts on Martin Logan Electrostats? How do you think they compare to your standard tweeter woofer array? Leave a comment down below and let us know. As always, guys, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you guys again in the next video.
Slap at the bass. Big time.
That's better.